On December 13, 2000, 7 men were locked inside the John B. Connolly unit in Texas. The prison, John B. Connolly, was widely considered to be one of the world's most secure, maximum security prisons. It had a fortress of walls stretching up to the sky, gun towers at every corner of the prison, and razor wire crawling under the Texas sun. Many experts considered it to be unescapable. The Connolly unit was notorious for one thing: its prisoners, violent offenders, gang leaders, convicted murderers, the kind of men you never want to escape. Every inch of the Connolly unit was built to crush any hopes of escape. At night, floodlights washed the prison yards in a blinding light. Cameras monitored every hallway, door, and movement. Guards walked their coordinated paths with precision. Watchtowers loomed overhead, rifles angled down, waiting for the slightest movement. To all the prisoners who entered, Connolly felt less like a prison and more like an engineered fortress. Nobody escapes Connolly. But Connolly Prison hadn't seen such a genius and dangerous group of 7 criminals before. George Rivas, the ringleader, sharp-eyed in the yard, always 2 steps ahead, watching and waiting, analyzing all of the guards' moves. Joseph Garcia, the muscle, but calm under pressure, the type who could keep a secret so tight you'd forget he was there. Michael Rodriguez was a natural-born manipulator who could talk his way past any locked door. Larry Harper, unpredictable and violent, a fuse vital for a violent prison escape. Then there was Randy Halpern, the quiet brain, mapping out prison guard schedules in his head. Patrick Murphy, the lookout and radio man, he had ears everywhere. And Donald Newberry, the backup muscle. He was an enforcer who watched everyone's back in case something went wrong. Each man a specific role with one shared goal: escape the prison through any means necessary. George Rivas didn't move fast, but he moved methodically. Throughout the course of a year, he watched from the shadows, from the kitchen line, the rec yard, the laundry. He drew invisible blueprints in his head, memorizing every officer's shift swap, every temporary broken camera, every time a civilian worker propped a door open without looking over their shoulder. Late at night in the cells, he'd talk through the vent to Murphy, and he would relay the information he gathered that day to the rest of the crew. Rivas carried the maze of the Connolly unit inside his head. The maintenance shop became his sole obsession. He realized it was the weakest location in the prison. From his cell, he traced the routes where the tools were kept, which doors were monitored, which were only supposed to be locked. He cataloged the habit of every worker, the ones who took smoke breaks, the ones who never checked ID, the ones who thought of inmates as invisible. Everything orbited around the maintenance shop. It was the only place in the prison with the slightest disorganization. Inmates and civilians worked side by side, tools changed hands, key rings jingled while nobody watched. Radios, unguarded, unencrypted, sat on the edges of desks. Rivas noticed that on Thursdays, the shop ran minimal staff, 1 guard at best, sometimes just 2 at lunch. The truck came and went, never checked at the gate, carrying trash, supplies, repairs. No one ever looked twice. He thought through his master plan, all out, and realized that this would still be very dangerous, but it would be where he planned to center America's most violent prison break from. For months, Rivas recorded the best moments to strike. January 28th, March 19th, August 14th, they were all dismissed for small flaws. In November, he spotted it. December 13th, 2000. Mid-afternoon, minimal staff, shift change, maintenance vehicle scheduled to leave for repairs. He watched, waited. This was it. On December 12th, the day before the escape, Rodriguez's father was convinced, through hints from Rodriguez, to leave a 1989 GMC Suburban parked beside the prison in a parking lot. He didn't just leave the car though, he was also told to stash cash under the mat. 2:40 p.m., December 13th. 7 men enter the maintenance shop, trying their best to blend in. The men were anxiously awaiting for the sound of a wrench tapping on concrete. This was the signal they had planned to start the mission with. Rodriguez casually cracks jokes with a civilian, while Harper helped one of the employees move a heavy toolbox. Garcia swept the floors while casually glancing at a clock. All of a sudden, a loud thud could be heard across the maintenance shop. It was time. Without any hesitation, the 7 men jumped into action. Rodriguez tricked a civilian into checking a clogged vent. As soon as the worker walked into the room with the vent, Harper slammed the door behind him and approached the worker with a roll of duct tape in his hand. Garcia and Newberry grabbed another worker near the sinks and quickly forced him into a corner. Murphy intercepted the guard entering with a delivery and quickly gagged him. Within minutes, the men had taken 7 of the workers hostage. They dragged the tied up and gagged workers into the electrical room, warning them that if they caused trouble or made any noise, they wouldn't hesitate to use force. With all of the workers and guards dealt with, the men were now free to begin their escape plan. They quickly raided the lockers, grabbing uniforms, badges, tool belts, and civilian jackets. For the next 5 minutes, the convicts slowly transformed into security guards. The lockers contained everything they would need to blend in with the other guards. As the prisoners finished putting on their new uniforms, Rodriguez had already grabbed a radio from one of the tied-up guards. He'd secretly been studying the guard's voice for months, learning his exact tone, favorite words, and personality. Rodriguez took a deep breath and cleared his throat. He then turned the radio on.
Breaker 3, area secure. Checking in.
Copy. COS ship change.
Roger, all clear.
He gave specific updates to the other guards, which allowed the 7 men to move around the prison undetected. None of the guards suspected a thing. Before leaving the maintenance shop, they forced the subdued guards to reveal the combination to the armory box. The inside of it had 14 handguns, a shotgun, an AR-15 rifle, and over 100 rounds of ammunition. The Texas 7 were suddenly the best armed men in the entire state. The men were now ready to try and exit the prison. Murphy rushed over to the maintenance truck and quickly hopped inside of it. He had lots of experience hot-wiring cars before being locked up, and this truck was no different. He was able to start it within minutes. In the meantime, the other men popped the trunk of the truck. They loaded it up with weapons and other supplies they found lying around the shop. Once everything was ready, Garcia climbed into the driver's seat and got behind the wheel. The other men all carefully hid out of sight in the back of the truck. With everyone in position, the prisoners used the radio once again. This time, they requested for the head guard to open the gate. They waited for what felt like hours until they finally heard a voice over the radio. And it was immediately followed by the sound of the gate opening up. The guards had opened the gate for the very prisoners they were trying to keep contained. The truck slowly drove out of the prison and onto the open road. No alarms, no sirens, only the sound of freedom. As the men drove the truck towards their getaway car, they were still in a state of shock, not able to comprehend the fact that they'd managed to do the impossible: escape. The state of shock quickly turned into excitement as they parked the truck around 1 mile away from the prison and sprinted for the hidden car Rodriguez's father had left. The men got changed out of their stolen guard uniforms and hopped into the car as they vanished west into Highway 181. Back at the prison, the guards finally had discovered the tied-up men, but unfortunately for them, it was too late. The Texas 7 already had a 10-hour lead before anyone noticed what had happened, and just when the guards thought things couldn't get any worse, they realized dozens of missing weapons had been taken from the prison armory box. The reality of the situation dawned on them. 7 of the most dangerous people in the country were on the loose, and they now had some of the most deadly weapons ever made. At first, their plan was simple: vanish into Texas. No flash, no unnecessary contact, hiding in plain sight. They shaved, cut their hair, changed their walks. Halpern joked, "We're the 7 chameleons." But the problem was hunger and the cost of freedom. With limited money and nowhere to run, they needed resources fast. Over the next 13 days, the 7 orchestrated a blitz of crime across Texas.
Radio Shack closes at 9. 2 employees, back door here, alarm panel here.
Cameras?
1 at the front, blind spot at the side. We go in fast, in masks, nobody remembers faces.
We're ghosts, cash only, no showing off.
As long as I get to kick a door, I'm happy.
Radio Shack, Houston, in and out in under 4 minutes. ATM jobs in Dallas, masked, efficient, cash only, no die packs, no witnesses. Vehicle thefts, Richardson and Arlington, rotating cars and plates, using stolen tools to break locks. Weapon store raids, they acquired more firepower, including high-capacity pistols and ammunition, always moving, never lingering. Throughout their different robberies, one thing was ingrained into their minds: swap drivers, change cars, burn clothes, stay quiet, trust nothing, see everything. December 24th, 2000. Oshman Sporting Goods, Irving, Texas. On Christmas Eve, the group of 7 pull up in a mysterious vehicle. Rivas had scouted it years before. The store was a known target, vulnerable on weekends, with cash reserves and a weapons arsenal in the back room. They burst in, just before closing, quickly pointing their guns at the staff and hurting them immediately. Cash and weapons taken within minutes. Rodriguez attempted to keep everyone calm. Nobody has to get hurt. This is just business. But unbeknownst to the robbers, the store's security alarm triggered 2 minutes ago when they attempted to access the cash and guns. Within a few short minutes, Officer Hawkins responded to the alarm call. When he arrived on the scene, he was noticed by the Texas 7. They opened fire almost immediately. Gunfire erupted. Harper opened fire first, followed by Garcia and Newberg. Hawkins attempted to take cover, but he was shot 11 times in the parking lot. Within hours, Hawkins was dead. Police departments across Texas went on high alert. The manhunt developed to a multi-state event. Now, the 7 were no longer just escapees. They were cop killers.
December of 2000, hours before Christmas Day, Irving police officer Aubrey Hawkins responded to a robbery. 5 of the Texas 7 shot Hawkins to death.
They knew what they were doing.
Officer Aubrey Hawkins' murder lit a fuse from the Texas border to Washington, D.C. The response was immediate, overwhelming. FBI, U.S. Marshals, Texas Rangers, hundreds of officers joined the hunt. Helicopters prowled the highways, news choppers hovered over neighborhoods, plainclothes detectives stalked out relatives, friends, and ex-girlfriends. The faces of the Texas 7 were everywhere. Gas stations, bus stops, inside every patrol car from El Paso to Atlanta. America's Most Wanted put their mugshots on national television. Knowing their faces now haunted every TV, the 7 altered their appearances day after day. Halpern shaved his head, Newberry grew a mustache, and Murphy dyed his hair. They left no trace, sleeping in different motels every night, paying in cash, splitting up in pairs to run errands. Under great pressure from police and running out of hope, Rivas proposed a genius new plan: escape out of state into Colorado to a Christian RV park where nobody would suspect a thing. They adopted new names, bought cheap religious tracts, even faked joining group prayers and youth activities. They called themselves the Blessed Brotherhood. It almost worked. Kids played outside the RV, unaware 7 fugitives sat inside, counting stolen money, loading stolen guns. At night, Rivas held hushed meetings. No noise, no fights, no drugs. We stayed disciplined. Finally, a resident grew suspicious. A face, a slip in the story, maybe the sheer weight of their tension. That tip went straight to the FBI. You should check the Coachlight RV park. The walls were closing in. January 2nd, 2001. The El Paso Country Sheriff's Office quickly rushed to the RV park. The SWAT team found Garcia, Rodriguez, and Rivas in a Jeep Cherokee in the RV park. They were hesitant to make any sudden moves because of all the weapons the prisoners had stolen, so they stayed hidden and patiently waited for the 3 men to let their guard down. While waiting around, the SWAT team saw the Jeep suddenly start its engine and drive off, almost like they had spotted the police stalking them out. The SWAT team wasn't willing to risk losing men again, so they chose to quickly get back on the road and follow the Jeep from a distance. They made sure to stay a few cars behind the prisoners, which would keep them out of sight. After a few minutes, the 3 men pulled into the gas station. As they stepped into the parking lot, the SWAT team saw their opportunity. They immediately surrounded the 3 escaped prisoners and arrested them. Later, other SWAT officers at the scene swept through the RV park and uncovered Halpern and Harper in an RV. Halpern surrendered peacefully, but Harper was found dead after a standoff, having a self-inflicted gun wound to his chest. The surviving 4 fugitives were taken into federal custody, even after the great breakthrough in the case. The police weren't cheering. They still had 2 fugitives on the loose with deadly weapons. Within hours, federal officers in Colorado Springs SWAT had found the location of the final 2 prisoners, a small Holiday Inn. The SWAT quickly arrived at the inn and had Newberry and Murphy cornered in their room. Agents were blocking every possible exit. The men had nowhere to go. The SWAT team started to communicate with the 2 suspects over the speaker, urging them to surrender in peace. The prisoners realized that they had a chance of escaping. After some back and forth, the 2 men stepped out of their room and into the hallway, with their hands above their head. A deal was reached among the 2 sides. The deal allowed them to make live TV appearances before they were arrested. The men were then handcuffed, and finally, all 7 of the escapees had been taken into custody. All 6 surviving members faced capital murder charges under Texas's law of parties, meaning each was equally responsible for Hawkins' death. Prosecutors didn't care who pulled the trigger, the plan, the escape, the crime spree. It all ended in a police officer's murder. One by one, the Texas 7 faced their sentences. George Rivas and Michael Rodriguez were executed by lethal injection in 2008 and 2009. 10 years later, after many appeals, Joseph Garcia and Donald Newberry were also executed. Larry Harper had decided to take fate into his own hands and committed suicide before his trial could be completed. Currently, Patrick Murphy and Randy Halpern are still alive. Their fate is yet to be decided after many years of appeals. The Texas 7 escape was a huge wake-up call to the Texas prison system. Decades of neglect now became apparent to the public. Texas had no choice but to fully re-examine every protocol in place. Tower guards were armed, radios became encrypted, and every blind spot was dealt with. Many correctional prison staff faced terminations, suspensions, and transfers. Although this prison break occurred 25 years ago, to this day, it's still one of the craziest prison escapes to ever happen. Just 7 men were able to take down one of the most secure facilities in the country. It was a story of preparation, freedom, and then sadness. Rodriguez, before his execution, said we proved the system was broken, but we paid the ultimate price for what we did.